Hi, my name is Nate Baird, and I am an Emergency Preparedness Planner for the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. Today, I am going to be giving you a look into what it means to work in the field of emergency management. So, I know to begin with, just a little bit about myself, how I got to where I am was a bit of a wandering path, which, as I'll explain, isn't actually that uncommon for emergency management um, in its current state. So I actually got my undergraduate degree in geology. And while doing that, I realized what really spoke to me, what I found really interesting, was the disasters, to be completely frank, the big things, the earthquakes, the tornadoes, the hurricanes. Well, hurricanes wasn't part of geology, but along those lines, that's what really spoke to me. So I started looking at how I could use that area of focus coming out of geology, and I ended up doing my graduate degree in hazard and disaster management. I actually traveled down to New Zealand to get my graduate degree so that I could specialize in exactly what I wanted to do, which I will talk about further on. And then after I got my graduate degree, came back to the States. My first real career position was with a consulting firm down in Washington, D.C. We worked on federal contracts, helping the federal government figure out the best way to prepare for disasters. We worked with FEMA, we worked with the National Institutes of Health, um, lots of different areas of the government that just help keep our people safe. We help them with that. We did a lot of the behind the scenes research on it and analysis. So I did that for about a year and a half, and then decided, all right, I've seen the federal side. What else is there? And I moved to central Pennsylvania to take a position with another consulting firm that did state and local emergency management. So we worked with everything from single hospitals to county emergency management agencies to state division of public health, and everything in between. It was still the same thing, except with this one, rather than just kind of being the back end researcher, it was a little bit more of the front end too. We wrote plans for our clients. We uh, designed exercises, held the exercises, evaluated how well they did on them, how prepared they were, how they can improve, things like that. So I did that also for about a year and a half and kind of seen the gamut from federal all the way down to local and single entity. I figured out what spoke the most to me, what I wanted to do, and applied for positions, which got me to my current position as an emergency management planner at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, where I've been for about 3 years now. So it's a position that I love. Um, it's a position, it's a job that I'm really proud of, but it is a very small, relatively unknown field. So that's why I love having opportunities like this to speak to people about what it is. Um, I think the simplest thing that I can say of what is emergency management is basically helping an organization or a location prepare for and respond to anything outside of the norm or outside of the ordinary. So, when you think about that, what comes to mind is FEMA. That's everyone's first, emergency management, FEMA. And they do play a large role. However, when you get to know the field, you learn that actually a lot of what FEMA does is, for lack of a better term, the check writing. They're the ones that set the boundaries of what you should be doing and then provide the funding to do it. They do deploy for major disasters, but a lot of the time it's office work for them. So like I said, there's also state and local uh, entities. There's the Pennsylvania Emergency Management Agency. There's counties have, the Delaware County Emergency Management Agency, all the way down to bigger, for example, Philadelphia. Philadelphia has the Office of Emergency Management, and even organizations. Like I said, I do this for CHOP, so hospitals have them, but major corporations, Walmart actually has a very highly respected emergency management team that assists in other areas and will assist often even governments with their response. I mean, if you think about it, any big organization with lots of locations, they need to make sure that if there's a disaster, their people and things are protected and can protect from damages and then reopen quickly so that they can keep making money. The way to do that, is emergency management. It's being able to know how to be prepared and how to respond. So it's very pervasive. It's a very small field. Like I said, I didn't even know about it when I was in college. I kind of found my way to it. Um, but it's one that I love, and it's one that the more you learn about it, you actually see that it is interwoven through everything, and it is growing as more and more things happen. To be completely frank, the pandemic is a great example. September 11th was kind of the catalyst of when people professionally said, all right, emergency management should probably be something more than just something, an afterthought that, oh, yeah, sure, we have a plan, but no one's looked at it in 10 years. We should probably do more. So that's when the Department of Homeland Security was created. A big focus of what they do is emergency management. That's why FEMA is underneath the Department of Homeland Security. So that was one big catalyst. Another one that we saw just barely was this pandemic. A lot of larger companies were caught flat-footed, were caught unprepared when the pandemic hit, and suddenly their revenue stream changed, and they had to adjust how they were responding, and they did not have a team of people that were ready for it. Hospitals are an especially big thing. Hospitals, thankfully, most have at least one person who part of their job is emergency management, but a lot of them realize with the pandemic they need more than just someone who spends half of their time on, for example, security is the most common, and half their time on emergency management. They need someone full-time emergency management to really handle it. So it's growing. The field is increasing. So what does it mean to do emergency management? What are you looking at? Like I said, it's helping the organization prepare for and respond to anything outside of the ordinary. So for example, at CHOP, we maintain all of the emergency plans, things like a 96-hour plan. We have a plan for basically if the world blew up outside of us, CHOP can be self-sustaining for 96 hours. So how we would do that, we keep the plans prepared. We are not the ones doing the legwork most of the time. We're that central node, that linchpin that brings the resources together. We talk to facilities and say, all right, our generators, what generator capabilities do we have? And facilities worries about having the generators there, keeping them fueled, testing them every couple of months. We go talk to nutrition and say, all right, what are our capabilities if suddenly we didn't get food deliveries for a couple of days? We don't deal with those contractors. Nutrition does. They say, all right, we have these contracts. We have this much on hand. This is what we could do. We're just that organizational point. So we do that, like I said, with the plans. We have a 96-hour plan. We have, everything from active shooter response training program down to a pandemic response. We help manage what we call our bioresponse program, down to just the day-to-day emergency operations plan. If something happened, what do you do? Anything outside the ordinary, we have a plan for how to respond to it. Severe weather, any of those things. A quick look at the kind of projects I'm responsible for. Like I said, I manage our active shooter response training program. I also do a lot of our emergency preparedness training out in the care network. I also am helping a lot with our vaccine distribution to staff. So I'm on the team that manages that and figures out how to get the vaccines out to staff, let them know when it's their turn to come in, things like that. So, a wide range, and that's part of what makes emergency management so fun, for me at least, is that it could be one thing one day and totally different the next. I mean, for example, my big focus recently has been vaccine allocation because that's what's so critical right now. However, when this storm came in, I was on call. So emergency management, we are a 24/7 position. So we take turns taking on call for a week, and I was on call when this storm came in, when a winter storm came in, and so I suddenly had to pivot from vaccine allocation to providing rooms for staff. If staff can't get home because it's not safe, we will set them up with an inflatable air mattress and some sheets, and they can take one of our outpatient rooms and spend the night there. And so we actually have an application that basically works as if it were a hotel. I reserve rooms for people. They get an email of what room they're going to be staying in. And so I suddenly had to pivot to that and spent 2 full days just finding rooms for staff, organizing, letting environmental services know what rooms needed to be cleaned after they were done, etc. So it's fun because it keeps changing. But at the same time, you need to make sure you're okay with that. To be to be successful in emergency management, you have to be able to pivot quickly. Because I do have, I set annual goals, projects I want to work on, goals I want to achieve, and I do my best to complete those, understanding that other things are going to happen. Um, you know, one day it's a pandemic, the next day it's a snowstorm, the next day it's, a bomb scare, whatever it is, in the world of emergency management, the next day it's, maybe a local area has an active shooter scenario. It's always different and it's always changing. And for me, that's what keeps it fun. It's not just sitting in an office looking at spreadsheets all day, every day. It's this ever-changing world, and a big part of it is exercises. So I get out of my office quite a bit. I go talk with people. I meet with them. If they have an area that they want to practice, and haven't done, for example, mass casualty incident. That's another project that another area I'm responsible for is the hospital's mass casualty incident response program. So we will do exercises with the emergency department, and we have these inflatable mannequins that each have a little piece of paper taped to them that say, we'll create a scenario and say, all right, there was an explosion at a concert, and we, over the course of 30 minutes, wheel in, 20 inflatable mannequins with little pieces of paper taped to them that says this one has cuts to their lower extremities, they've lost a lot of blood, here's what their blood pressure is. Here's their age. And we just wheel them in again and again and see how well the emergency department responds to that. And we watch them, we observe them, we critique them, and help them identify ways that they can be better next time. So it's very active, it's very interactive. I know people, I know people from throughout the hospital, not just my own little unit, because what we do is involved in all the different things that the hospital does. And so we need to be familiar with it and know how to help it. So, like I said, I love what I do. What I always tell my boss, and whenever anyone asks, I love what I do, and I'm proud of where I do it, because not just am I protecting people, but especially when it comes to something like Children's Hospital Philadelphia, what I do is directly protecting a vulnerable population, kids who are sick or who are injured, who are in our hospital for care. I'm not a medical person. I'm not the one providing that patient care directly. However, I am making sure that the doctors and the nurses can continue to provide that care. I'm the one making sure that even though a snowstorm comes and drops 12 inches of snow, there's not going to be an issue, because we will still have the staff there that need to be there. They will keep providing the care. We have backup plans for how to get resources if we need them. We make sure things keep operating so that we can protect those kids. And it means a lot to me to do that. So really quickly, how you can get into this field, there's various ways. The older approach was, like I said, it was just kind of looked at as a secondary thing. So, police officers or firefighters or EMS, after doing 5, 10, 15 years in that, they just took that emergency response knowledge and transitioned to an emergency management position. That is not as common anymore. There's still a lot of people that started that way that are still in the field, but it is now becoming a more education-based position. You can get undergraduate degrees in, for example, Homeland Security, or you can get master's degrees, for example, Masters of Public Health, or like for me, since I wanted to stay science-based in my emergency management, I did have to leave the country because it's still a novel enough field that the opportunities are sometimes limited. So to do a science-based emergency management program, a disaster-based one, I had to leave the country to go get my master's in hazard disaster management. But there are, every year more and more programs are starting to pop up where you can do either undergrad or grad school in the area of emergency management. So I encourage you to look it up. Like I said, it's one that is much less widely known. Most people don't know about it, but it's one that I love. So by all means, check it out.